This past Monday night, it was raw. It was actually raw and painful. And also blistered, awfully dry, itchy, scratchy, wet. So, did you watch this program or some of it? Did you skip through it? Did you try to find the high points?
You know, this is the sad state of affairs. I'm not sure. Because the last few weeks I've been on Mondays when I'm working at my desk, I have Raw on in the background and I'll try to pay attention and I'll listen to anything that looks like it's important to listen to. And for the life of me, I can't remember if I did it this past Monday because every episode just seems the same.
Well, I'll remind you. It started out with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens in the ring. Remember, they were overly excited, about to be the new tag team champions. They're finally about to secure their spots at WrestleMania. They're trying to still tell people that two of their biggest stars are not going to be on WrestleMania, and they're all upset about this. And remember, last week they wanted to beat Alpha Academy for the tag team title so they'd be on WrestleMania, but that didn't work out. And they showed VTR of all of that, and then played Alpha Academy's music. The music starts out with Gable going, "Shush, please." And now they're ripping off the fucking opposition's YouTube show with the fucking goof that says shush all the time. Remember that? The librarian?
That's right.
Now Gable, an Olympic wrestler, is saying shush. And he also said last week's victory was erroneous. I don't know it. To be honest, I watched that match and it didn't stimulate any of my erroneous zones. But the point is, they're all heels. Gable's knocking the town again. He talks like a child. Otis is his simple-minded fucking cohort. They're knocking the fans. Seth and Owens are loudmouth, obnoxious heels. It's like they just want to send stuff out that people will not only boo, but actively go, I don't want to see any of these people. Because there was nobody to root for. Then they did a dissolve. You know what? Instead of a cut, a dissolve is like a dissolve, a transition in television or movies. They did a dissolve from the Alpha Academy bitching at ringside and telling people to shush to a backstage interview with Riddle and Orton. And so they're really getting artsy. I've never seen anybody just break from a fucking, something's going on in the ring. There's a team in the ring. There's a team with microphones talking to them. And they just decide to do a dissolve to a backstage interview. And then Riddle and Orton do their entrance and birds fly out of Riddle's ass and they go to the break. They come back and apparently it was a triple threat three-way tag team championship match between Owens and Rollins and Gable and Otis and Riddle and Bro. And it was 17 minutes into the show before the bell rang to start the first match. Now, is this starting to bring back any unpleasant memories?
I faintly remember some of this in the background, and I remember thinking, I don't need to watch this.
Well, you didn't, but I'll tell you what, they started out going 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, I can't do another triple threat match on a 3-hour show. How many three-ways we just seen the last 2 weeks? And I swear to God, it went on, and finally, Riddle stole the pin from Rollins and beat Gable for the belt. So Rollins and Owens are still not on WrestleMania, and they still not the tag team champions, but Riddle and Bro are. And Rollins and Owens had to sit there and act like they were heartbroken. Owens was just sitting there in the fetal position, staring off into space, and Rollins was just standing there slack-jawed like he'd had a lobotomy. And Orton and Bro, or Bro and Orton, or Bro and Riddle, or whichever one, they do an in-ring promo. This whole thing was over with. It was 51 minutes into the television program by the time that the first match and or related business was done. That's how they're getting by with these 3-hour shows. Everything takes vastly longer amounts of time than it should. And then did you have any comments on that match you didn't watch, young Brian?
No.
Good.
No comments.
For the 24/7, do you know who the 24/7 champion is now, Brian?
Oh, the last time I saw it was, I think it was Reggie. Or was it Dana Brooke? It was one of those two.
It's Dana Brooke. Reggie, I think, used to have it. But now Reggie and Dana Brooke are an item. They're boyfriend, girlfriend, paramour and paramee, whatever the fucking... They got a thing. But now the 24/7 title that is the joke, phony, fake title that is used for celebrities and inanimate objects is now on Dana Brooke, and she's defending it against Tamina. This was what was in the ring at the top of the 9 o'clock Eastern hour when people are switching around from their previous program. And it used to be one of Vince McMahon's things. You know, Vince and his things. What's at the top of the hour? What's in the ring at the top of the hour? What are they going to see when they're flipping by at the top of the hour? They saw Dana Brooke defending the 24/7 title against Tamina. So he's forgotten what he used to know. Then...
Was it a good match?
Yeah. Then The Miz was in the ring. See, I just keep moving along. And apparently Cleveland, Ohio, where Raw was taking place, is The Miz's hometown. And he's out there in his magenta suit and sunglasses. It looked like it was the exact same color, and the glasses were the exact same shade as a leisure suit that Dennis Condrey had in 1975. And that's the last time it was in fashion. And apparently, Logan Paul is from Cleveland also, of the famous Paul brothers. He's fighting on WrestleMania. They're fucking with the Mysterios, right? Him and Miz. And so they're the heels, and they're talking about Cleveland. And I start fast forwarding because I don't care about either of these people. But then suddenly I see Jerry Lawler. So I stop it and immediately back up. They brought out Lawler because he's from Cleveland. Because a lot of people know, and he's obviously went over this. He used to live in Cleveland when he was a kid before he moved back to Memphis in the mid-'60s. And that's why he's been a lifelong fan of the Cleveland Browns, the Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Storm and Vermin, or whatever the fuck other sports teams they have there. So I watched this, and it's like when they bring on local TV news the plastic, prepackaged news anchors that they have now, bring on some local TV personality that started in the radio days that's just so smooth and so conversational and so talented and has been on live television or live broadcasting for thousands and thousands of hours. He's just natural. They didn't have anything for him to do. He comes out and puts Cleveland over. People are glad to see him. And then Miz can turn on Cleveland and say, but it's not a WrestleMania city, after Lawler suggests they have WrestleMania there sometime. Well, this isn't a WrestleMania city because, nobody lives here anymore. The Browns left. Winners leave Cleveland. And basically the Miz and Paul turn heel on Cleveland and then leave. And leave Lawler standing there in the ring going, what's the matter with those guys?
That was it?
That was it. And I swear they were obviously talking about their WrestleMania business, but not really. And nothing happened. And they were babyface in Cleveland until they healed Cleveland, and Lawler had to come out because he was taken up for Cleveland. But if you weren't from Cleveland, I don't know if you would have particularly enjoyed this or not. Are you from Cleveland?
No.
You didn't enjoy this then?
I don't.
You don't remember watching it?
I don't think I enjoyed it.
I don't think I enjoyed it. All right, here's one of the things that came up next that I watched this program for. And boy, you can really tell there's different people in charge of Raw and NXT. Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler had a tag team match against Tommaso Ciampa and Rex Braunsteiner. And these guys, the four of them, have been the best things lately about Raw and NXT, with the exception of Brock Lesnar. And so I think I'm gonna enjoy this match. Now, remember the first match on the show, by the time that they talked and talked and talked some more and then wrestled and wrestled and wrestled some more and then talked some more afterwards, just that one piece of business was 50 solid minutes. Well, this tag match, they do 2 minutes. They go to the break on a nothing spot. They come back. Ciampa sells for 30 seconds. Makes a comeback, a simultaneous cold tags. They make a comeback. They have a little four-way, and Steiner hit his finish on Ziggler. 1, 2, 3. On NXT, they're the best thing on the show. On this marathon bore fest called Raw, they get 5-minute blasé matches to just promote that they're going to be on NXT the following night. And then they don't give them a chance to do anything that the people would say, wow, I got to see that on NXT. And then NXT is good. But people wouldn't know that from what they saw on Raw. Both Robert Roode and Steiner are, well, I mean, all these guys are great, but I loved Steiner working with Roode. All four of the guys, they would have fit in the NWA in the glory period with the Midnight Express, the Horsemen, Tully and Arn, Wyndham, the Steiners, the Rock and Roll. Roode and Ziggler and or Ciampa and Steiner, just at his level of experience, you can tell they would have fit right in with those guys and been able to work matches with those guys. And there's not a lot of talent today that you can say that about, that they could have jumped right in with those guys and hung with them. Not talking about doing stunts or playing on the trampoline. I'm talking about working. But these four guys are, but they get no time on Raw. Did you see any of that?
I didn't, but last week I got to see the Ziggler match that was on Raw, and obviously I got to see NXT, and it is puzzling the way they're being used from one show to the other, from one night to the next night.
It is a puzzle.
On the same channel. It just doesn't
on the
make
same
sense.
network, yeah. So the next match on Raw was almost against Apollo Crews with his cohort Major Sneeze. Was Apollo Crews not on top and a main event guy at one point?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, Apollo Crews, people were, they gave him that ridiculous Zimbabwean warrior gimmick where he was carrying a spear and whatever the fuck, but they were using him, were they not? Did I imagine this, that he was in at least something featured, some main event somewhere? They were doing something.
I don't know. I kind of remember them always treating him like a jerk-off since they signed him and brought him up. He was Uha Nation, wasn't he? That was his name on the Indies, and then
there you
people
go.
were buzzing over him, and they put him in NXT, gave him a new name, and now he's on the main roster, and no one gives a shit.
He got offense last time I saw him, I believe. He had an actual match. This one he didn't. So he's pissed somebody off. Apollo Crews has pissed in the wrong post toasties. Because this was longer than most almost matches. So to compensate for that, they moved at a glacial pace and basically did a slow squash match. And then Major Sneeze comes in and faces off with Almost. And one of the announcers says, well, look at that. He's almost as big as he is or whatever. And then nothing happened. They just stared at each other with a mean look. And Almost laughed at Sneeze. Then it was time for Edge and AJ's package. Have you ever seen Edge's package? Beth Phoenix likes it. Edge and AJ had a package of last week when Edge lost his mind and switched heel on AJ, and here comes Edge out for an entrance in blue lighting. Do you know when you're in a hotel room in some distant city and they've got that fluorescent light that's kind of yellowish and it brings out every zit and boil and blemish and pimple and canker and fucking blister and any type of imperfection in your face and your skin, and you look like hell, death warmed over. That is what this blue light did to Edge. Did you see this? Did you see he looked like a Viking whose ship had hit an iceberg somewhere?
I did not see that here. However, you're describing the way he's been looking the last few weeks, especially with the way they've been lighting him in the ring while he's been sitting in the chair giving his speech.
Yeah, that blue light is not cosmetically pleasing. He looked like a Viking fearmonger. See, I just popped Travis Heckel. He's got to be old. Yeah, he's old enough. If you lived in Louisville, Kentucky through 1976, you saw the fearmonger. So he stood there and let the fans boo him forever because he tried to kill AJ last week by crushing his skull with the concerto. And then he said, "You think you know me?" Apparently the explanation is what Edge did last week, he did for AJ Styles because he wants to meet the best AJ Styles, the toughest AJ Styles. He wants to bring out the real AJ Styles so they can have a match that's a classic and he can beat the best that AJ has. Isn't this the Jericho Kingston angle on the other station? And/or wasn't this somebody else? I want to bring out the best in you, so I'm going to cave your head in with a sledgehammer. How many times have we seen that reasoning lately on wrestling?
It's funny because Edge's feud with The Miz when that first started, it was kind of like they were mirroring some of the stuff with Punk and MJF. And now that you hear you say that, maybe Edge's whole thing now is just to steal from other people in real time.
I'm not blaming Edge. He don't write this shit. I like Edge. I want to like Edge. But I cannot watch anybody deliver this rotten, dramatic writing that's so preposterous. What we just talked about it, but what if I'd have come out the next week and say, you know why we hit Bill Watts over the head with that blackjack? Because we wanted him to be tougher. We want the best Bill Watts. We want Bill Watts to come out here and be able to kick our ass. So we pissed him off on purpose. No, we didn't do that. Because it wouldn't have drawn any fucking money, because it's stupid. Is this a Japanese thing they're stealing it from? Do the Japanese wrestlers attack each other and cave each other's heads in with blunt instruments because they want the other guy to be tougher and give them a better fight?
Well, I don't know if that's where this is coming from.
I'm just wondering, they steal a lot of stuff on the other channel from Japan. I'm just wondering if that's a thing over there. They had a girls' tag team match. Zelina and Vega against Morgan and Ripley. That sounds like a brand of fucking rum. Possibly a CPA firm, Morgan and Ripley. But even Rhea Ripley was not worth this at this point. This is a 3-hour program. I'm needing to get through it. Did you watch the highlights of Madison Square Garden when they glossed over that they had Austin Theory challenge Brock and instead started with Reigns' run-in? So it looks to the average fan that doesn't get on the internet like the people in Madison Square Garden got to see Reigns and Lesnar. But they shot it on video with a nice camera and then kept freezing every goddamn bump. Like they used to do the pay-per-views when they didn't want you to see a pay-per-view while the replay was still up, you had to buy. They would show freeze frames. Why did they do that in this instance, Brian?
I don't know. I know why they used to do it for pay-per-view. It made some sense, although it was annoying. Yeah. I don't know why they would do it for the MSG show unless they're planning on airing it somewhere. And
all the shit looked good. The video looked good. It was nice stuff they did, ending up Brock bleeding and laying on the steps with Reigns standing over him, holding the belt, saying, "Acknowledge me." I think if you want to go to WrestleMania, that's a good way to get there. And they did the Vader Hall of Fame package. And nothing wrong with that again. And I'm happy Vader's going to be going into the Hall of Fame. But the Boy Meets World clip was as prominent as his wrestling clips. He's out there. They showed WCW stuff and WWF stuff. He's been in the ring with Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels and every major fucking star in the goddamn business. But it was a big deal to put a clip of his cameo appearance on a goddamn second-rate sitcom. And he said he was a star of television. Boy Meets World could barely be considered television, right?
Well, no, that's a big show for kids who grew up in the 90s. That was a big deal. I could tell you, like, people I knew who didn't like wrestling knew about Vader from that show. My cousin, who's a little younger than me, used to watch that show. He knew about Vader because of that show. Now, I think mentioning it is one thing. If it's as prominent as this wrestling career, that's a problem.
See, your cousin used to watch Boy Meets World.
Yeah, a lot of kids would watch that crap on ABC on Friday nights, and then they brought Boy Meets World back, and my kids started watching Girl Meets World, where the daughter of the star of Boy Meets World and his girlfriend on the show, now they have a whole nother sub-show. I think that's done now, too.
Yeah. I want to watch Girl Meets Boy.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, call Stephen Hirsch. Why are you bothering me with this?
Girl Meets Boy, direct from Vivid Video. Yeah, well, your cousin, the kid, watched Boy Meets. When I was a kid, I was watching documentaries and news programming, to learn my mind.
You had 2 channels.
Well, yeah, there was a documentary on one and a news program on another. Anyway, then we get to Finn Balor and Austin Theory. I'm like, okay, I'll take this. My man Austin Theory. Finn Balor's a pro. Do you remember that I mentioned the first match on this program went 50 fucking minutes?
Yeah.
Well, this one didn't. Again, it was rushed. And also, I think they even had a match here a few weeks ago that was better than this. Theory has looked great. Balor's always, this just didn't, they did what they could do, I guess, in the time they had. But they started out, they did a bit of a match. They went to break on a floor spot that was just blah. Nobody even took a bump. It was just somebody slid out, whatever. They come back, Theory's in control. But as I noted then, the first match took forever. Everything else has been rushed through since then. Some of it needed to be even quicker. Balor makes a comeback. Theory stops him. They did some nice stuff back and forth. Balor, all of a sudden, boom, Theory takes a bump. He's in the place for the coup de grace. Balor goes to the top, and suddenly they've got a close-up on Balor climbing to the top so that you couldn't see, but a hand reaches out and snatches him around the neck from off camera. It is Damian Priest. He suddenly appeared on the ring apron and snatches Balor by the neck and throws him off the top rope, disqualification. Theory completely rolls out, disappears, and Priest hits Balor with his finish and then leaves, and then Theory rolls back in, hits his finish, and takes a selfie.
This is what makes Vince happy.
And then, something we hadn't seen yet tonight, Kevin Owens in the ring. Damn it. They're going to get their money's worth out of him. They paying him $2 million a year. By God, you're going to be on 75 to 80 minutes of every program. And his story is still he doesn't have a WrestleMania match. Now, they've talked to Rollins in the back, by the way, earlier. I didn't even jot that down. Apparently, somebody clocked him. He had a gash on his eyelid, but he was staring off into space and would not comment on the sorry state of affairs that he's in, that he's not at WrestleMania. Well, Owens, he came out and he's going to lay this shit down. He's going to shuck this corn all the way down to the cob, tell us how he feels. Because he doesn't have a WrestleMania match. And so he wants to have the Kevin Owens show at WrestleMania. We've been hearing that the guy I'm about to talk about may or may not now have agreed to have a match. But Owens wants a KO show at WrestleMania with some lowlife from Texas. Like, I don't know, JBL. Nah, he's a bully and an asshole. Booker T. No, say he's not even really from Texas. He spent half his life in a team called Harlem Heat. That was a good point. Because Harlem's in New York.
Yes, it is.
And he mentioned Shawn Michaels, but he can't be, he's a Canadian, he can't be sacrilegious. So none of them will do. The perfect choice. The broken down shell of his former self, living on his past glory, drinking beer all day. People came up for that. Redneck, bad knees, etc. builds up to saying, I want to, on the Kevin Owens show, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and throws the microphone down. And the announcers go, oh my God. And of course the people pop when Austin's name is mentioned. You know, when you, in a wrestling arena, the phrase Stone Cold Steve Austin gets about the same response as free money. So they cheered, but Brian, if you're wanting to get Stone Cold Steve Austin back at a WrestleMania in Texas and have him interact in any way with anybody, couldn't you come up, even if it's Owens, I'm not saying it shouldn't be Owens, but couldn't you come up with some better motivation for Steve Austin to come back, some better happening or incident to motivate Steve Austin to come back after all these years to do a talk show or a match or a beer drinking contest or a quilting bee or whatever, than giving Kevin Steen a long-standing hatred of Texas over the last 4 or 5 weeks?
No, this is as dumb as it can get. Just him randomly ranting about Dallas for a month, leading to Steve Austin to come back to defend the honor of Dallas? I'm not exactly sure what the point of this is. They thought they were going to have a match. Steve Austin put his foot down and said there will be no match. And now they're going to have to make the best of this that they can.
They can have a bit of a skirmish. I'm sure the people will be happy about it. But before they even knew there wasn't going to be a match, by the strict definition of same, this was the idea they had. Steen doesn't like people from Texas. What the... Seriously? And he's, you know, if he'd been going on record for the past 10 years he's been in the company or whatever long it's been, yeah, but one thing I can't stand is those Texans, that'd be one thing. If he'd beaten up a bunch of people from Texas and laughed about it, that'd be one thing. If he goddamn mistreated a cow, well, that's going too far. But just for 4 or 5 weeks, yeah, I hate Texas. Out of the blue. Cinderella story. Out of nowhere. They shoehorned this reason into that fucking high-heeled slipper very, very hard. It was placed there with a sledgehammer.
It doesn't get you excited about Austin. That's for sure.
And I'm, again, is anybody close to Austin? Jim Ross is not there anymore to mistreat, but was anybody else close to Austin? Or does Austin have a charity that somehow Steen could have maligned that he likes? Or even a fan could have been mistreated while wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt. You know Austin's not going to let something like that, just anything. But I hate Texas and Dallas. Even a lot of people in Texas hate Dallas.
I think those were the last words Steve said when he left Texas.
I hate this shit. Last time I was down there 4 or 5 years ago, you take your life in your hands just to drive on the interstate. They're doing road construction on everything all at the same time. One of the major interstate highways around the Metroplex now is named after George fucking Bush. So you know it goes nowhere. Anyway, that was Raw. Are you as raw as I was over Raw?
Yeah, it sounded awful.
And I'll tell you what, it was the last thing I watched before I went to bed. And normally, you know, I've talked about how good I'm sleeping lately. Normally, when I nod off into blissful slumber, into somnambulism at night, I'm dreaming of a beautiful sunny morning and a healthy breakfast. And in this case, all I could think of was the bad taste in my mouth from Raw. Thank goodness, Brian, I woke up and I took a big heaping helping of Magic Spoon and shoved it in my face and got that bad taste out of my mouth from the night before. Have you ever done that?
Thank goodness. Yes, I have.
You've woke up one of these mornings, many mornings, and you've said, I can still taste last night's wrestling program. It's like a bile sitting on my tongue, but you go to the Magic Spoon. The healthiest cereal that tastes good as well, not garbage. You can feed this to the kids. You can feed it to your wife. Unless you don't like your wife, in which case I'd feed her some arsenic. But
let's not joke about that. No one out there should be feeding anything that could be potentially deadly to their wives. And of course, Jim was joking. Magic Spoon, of course, is not deadly. It's delicious.
I was thinking of aspic, I think it was.
Again, don't
Nevertheless,
do that. Yes.
0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving of Magic Spoon, only 140 calories a serving. So they got the great taste, but it's not going to poison you. It's not going to make you feel bad. It's not going to make you gain weight. It's not going to make you barf up your toenails like Monday Night Raw does. It's only 140 calories a serving, plus keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And you can build your own box. And you do not even need tools. All you need is money. Money to pay for this shit. If you don't have that, you're screwed. But you can go to magicspoon.com/Jim and use the promo code Jim at checkout to build your very own custom bundle like cocoa and fruity and frosted and peanut butter and blueberry and cinnamon and cookies and cream and maple waffle. Boy, I hope they come up with some more. I'm thinking of a good kerosene flavor. They can make anything taste good at Magic Spoon. Yeah, they can make anything taste good at Magic Spoon.
It's not about making it taste good. There has to be an audience that actually wants it. Who the hell wants kerosene cereal?
Hey, they could burnt rubber. They could make burnt rubber cereal, and I would eat it because they're just magic. Folks, you go to magicspoon.com. They're a bunch of fairies sprinkling fairy dust all over everything. Just the magic. It just comes, it appears like magic. Magicspoon.com/Jim to grab a custom bundle of this cereal made by these magicians. And be sure to use the promo code Jim at checkout to save $5 off your order. And remember, Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 off at checkout. It's guilt-free. It's not money-free, but we'll save you $5. It's magic. Have to believe it is magic. This is the best cereal I've ever stuck in my face.